Welcome students to the session on tradition and individual talent. Tradition and individual talent has been one of the extraordinary influential critical works by T.S. Eliot, which was first published in 1922 in the Sacred Woods and subsequently was included in the selected essays. Now, in this essay, primarily Eliot has dealt with the concepts of historical sense and tradition, interdependence of the past and the present, and impersonality in art in general and poetry in particular. Eliot has attached a very great importance to the idea of tradition and rejected the idea of tradition in the name of blind or timid adherence also to successful compositions of the past. Now, by subscribing to this idea of tradition, Eliot does not mean sacrificing any novelty or slavish repetitions of stylistic and structural features, but by the term tradition, he comes up with something of much wider significance. By tradition, he does not refers to a legacy of writers which can be handed down from a generation to another generation. It has nothing to do with the idea of inheritance, rather, it regrets a great deal of endeavor. He further argues it involves the historical sense, and the historical sense involves a perception not only of the pastness of the past but its presence. This historical sense, which is a sense of the timeless as well as of the temporal and of the timeless and of the temporal together, is what makes a writer traditional. And by this statement, Eliot wants to emphasize that the writer or the poet must develop a sense of the pastness of the past. Always seek to examine the poem or the work in its relation to the works of dead writer or the poets. This is what he meant by tradition. Now, to substantiate his viewpoint, Eliot further says that no poet, no artist has a complete meaning alone. His significance, his appreciation is the appreciation of his relation to the dead poets and the artists. And as he says this, he is perfectly aware of Matthew Arnold's notion of historical criticism, and therefore he distances himself from such Arnoldian critical stance. He identifies his approach to literary appreciation as a principle of aesthetics and thereby distinguishes it from Arnold's historical criticism. Thus, Eliot offers an organic theory and practice of literary criticism, and in this, he treats tradition not as a legacy but as an invention of anyone who is ready to create his or her literary pantheon depending on his literary tastes and positions. Now, this means that the development of the writer will depend on his or her ability to build such private spaces for continual negotiation and even struggle with illustrious antecedents and strong influences. Harold Bloom, he terms the state of struggle as the anxiety of influence, a post-structuralist critic, and he derides Eliot for suggesting a very complex, elusive relationship between tradition and the individual, and therefore goes on to develop his own theory of influence. In the second part of the essay, Eliot argues that honest criticism and sensitive appreciation are directed not upon the poet but upon the poetry. Now, this hints at the actual beginning of new criticism. We have talked about new criticism, close reading, explication, where the focus was from author to the texts. Some kind of anonymous poems were circulated in the classroom for students to read and interpret. This was new criticism's Ransom's approach. And defines Eliot in this particular essay, he defines the poet's responsibility. He says the poet is not supposed to compose poetry which is full of personal emotions. He must subscribe himself to something very valuable, that is, for whatever others have composed in the past. And this is how Eliot emphasizes objectivity in poetry, and he believes that some sort of physical distancing is necessary for successful composition. He also mentions that the poet has to merge his personality with the tradition. The progress of the artist is a continual self sacrifice, a continual extinction of personality, and the mind of the poet is a medium in which experiences can enter new combinations. He exemplifies this process as when oxygen and sulfur dioxide are mixed in the presence of a filament of platinum. They form sulfuric acid and has no trace of platinum because platinum is a catalyst. This combination takes place in the presence of platinum, which acts as the catalyst, but the sulfuric acid shows no trace of platinum and remains unaffected. The catalyst facilitates the chemical change but does not participate in the chemical reaction and remains unchanged. Eliot compares the mind of the poet to the shred of platinum which will digest and transmute the passions which are its material. He suggests the analogy of a catalyst's role in chemical process in scientific laboratory for this process of depersonalization. Eliot sees the poet's mind as a receptacle for seizing and storing up numberless feelings, phrases, images, which remain there until all the particles which can unite to form a new compound are present together. He says that concepts like sublimity, greatness, or intensity of emotion are irrelevant. It is not the greatness of the emotion that matters, but the intensity of the artistic process. The pressure under which the artistic process takes place that is important. In this way, Eliot dissociates the notion on the artistic process from an added emphasis on genius and the exceptional mind. Eliot refutes the idea that poetry is the expression of poet's personality. Experiences in the in the life of man may have no place in his poems and vice versa. The emotions occasioned by events in the personal life of the poet are not important. What matters is the emotions transmuted into poetry, the feelings expressed in the poetry. Emotions which he has never experienced will serve his turn as well as those familiar to him. Eliot critiques Wordsworth's definition of poetry in the preface to the Lyrical Ballads, where he says that poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling. It takes its origin from emotion recollected in tranquility. For Eliot, on the contrary, poetry is not recollection of feeling. He says it is a new thing resulting from the concentration of a very great number of experiences. So it is a concentration which does not happen consciously or out of deliberation. He defines poetry as that poetry is not turning loose of emotion but an escape from emotion. It is not the expression of personality but an escape from personality. For him, the emotion of art is impersonal, and the artist can achieve this impersonality only by and being conscious of the tradition. He's talking about the poetic tradition and neglects the fact that even the poetic tradition is a complex mixture of written and oral poetry and the elements that go into them. It was only in his later writings that he realized that in poetic composition, many elements are involved. In his poetic dramas, he sought to broaden this scope. Eliot also ignored other traditions that go into social formation. In religion and literature, he deals with the non poetic elements of tradition at length. And he kept on developing his notions on tradition right up to the time when he wrote Notes Towards a Definition on Culture. Thus, we see that Eliot denounces the romantic criticism of 19th century. We have talked about this in our earlier classes. It underlies the importance of tradition, examines the correlation between tradition and individual talent, and finally announces the death of the author. Author who is the empirical author, the author in the biographical sense of term, and shifts the focus from the author to the text.